Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be taking a look at West Virginia, 1941. This is the Premium Tier 6 American battleship, and this is during Rank Sprint. I was running with Rootin' Tootin' Vladimir Putin and HMS Gallant. It's the Tier 6 Premium British DD, and we were doing quite well. In fact, we already reached Rank 1, and it didn't take too long. So I want to talk through this game, but also talk through which ships I feel work the best. So, this is the first rank involving the CV rework since 2 or 3 seasons ago, and that CV rework season was awful. They were so incredibly overpowered compared to everything else. You had literally no AA protection whatsoever, it felt like, because they were just so dominant. And it showed. Aircraft carriers were at the very onset, and they were still in the queue, still influencing the rank meta all the way to rank 1. I am happy to announce CVs are not that powerful in this one. They can have effect. They can obviously spot, they can kill targets, they can do everything you expect them to do, but when players group up, and most of them do, using priority sector and the ships that they've chosen are actually very effective against the carrier. So the carrier really has to pick and choose. By the time the carrier gets into its own, the game honestly is decided, I find, in most instances. And obviously, if you're playing a class that takes a long time to really have the same type of influence that you want in a game, you really have to have a solid team to protect the early game. Doesn't happen as frequently as most players would hope for, I'm afraid, in rank. And that is just down to the fact that rank is competitive. People want to win. You go up against players who want to win. Guess what they start doing? They start picking the strongest ships. They start being as cheesy as possible. And they are not very sad about being as cheesy and taking every advantage that is there. But it is nice to see the CV, and I'm hoping that this version of the CV is accepted by the community and we can move forward by tweaking the balance ever so slightly if we need to. I'm certainly very happy. I'm certainly very happy with that shot. Took out that Fuso. That devastating strike on that battleship, and that's first blood, and that's a big gain that early on. But I'm certainly happy with priority sector and the apparent power that I have in influencing the air, but also being protected by it. It doesn't feel unfair either way. And I'm happy that Wargaming is moving towards a better version of the game. I just wish it wouldn't have taken 6 months. You know? Oh, man, if I could devastate strike every single target on the enemy team, that would be 7 devastating strikes. We're already up to 2, and there's only 5 left. We can do it. We can do it. Probably not. Probably not the DDs. But so far, so good. The game's going great. So yeah, aircraft carriers are in rank sprint. They're really in the queue at the beginning, but they really trail off near the end. They are definitely solid, but they can't carry consistently because based on their opponent, they might have really great AA or really crappy. It's really a crapshoot when it comes to that. Like the Prince Adolf Friedrich. He does not have an impressive gun setup, but his AA setup's really good, and I would not try and drop it that frequently, especially if there's multiple cruisers by him. So it's up to battleships and friendly cruisers to try and take the target out, and those friendly cruisers, they're really dealing with a lot of tough situations. Tier 6, no heal. There's ships like the West Virginia, the Mutsu, the Fuso, the Ismail, the Normandy, which can one-shot them. And you can't recover. The cruisers are having such a tough time. And especially if there's a skilled battleship player on the enemy team or your team who can hit big alpha strikes, if you can hit those shots, you're always going to be an asset that people value. So from my experience, aircraft carriers are in rank, but they are not immune to the shortcomings of rank. Whereas I think DDs and battleships are a little bit more resilient to tier 6 rank play. Obviously, DDs have great concealment, and they can outspot everyone, but battleships have the ability to heal, which cruisers do not. And those two in particular seem to be the most dominant in this current meta at this precise time. So, best battleships, I think, big gun calibers. The biggest you can get to take out the enemy battleships. If you can take out battleships on the enemy team, the cruisers will fall shortly, or you've already taken them out. And if you go for a lot of small gun calibers, it is effective, but you lose out on that high alpha potential of reaching the Citadel a lot of times, I find. The smaller gun caliber, just not as consistent from range as the big, super heavy gun calibers. So as far as cruisers are concerned, they are not very effective. They certainly are very vulnerable. Pensacola, the Molotov, the Bajoni, all these ships, they're just so easy to Citadel, so easy to kill. You make one wrong mistake and the game's over for you. Whereas with a battleship or a DD, you have some recovery. Not every DD and not every battleship, but in general, those two classes work the best currently. What DDs would you recommend? I think the Gallant worked very well for Rootin' Tootin'. Obviously, I think the Icarus would work similarly, but the way Rootin was describing it, I felt like my torpedo systems were a little bit more easier to be successful with. The T-61 was another mainstay. I tried to make the Americans work. I did not find anything impressive about the Farragut or the Monahan. The Hatsuharu has the best concealment in the game at this tier, and that is very nice, but it only has 4 guns. It has great AA, and honestly, I think the Hatsuharu is probably the best Japanese DD at tier 6 because of that. It has great AA, it has great concealment, it has super solid guns. In general, though, it's not really the ship itself, it's more how you use the tools available. And the T-61 works very well with the tools. Gallant works very well. I did have a little success with my French, but they are very vulnerable as well. They can't hide, they don't have smoke. So it's sort of a risk versus reward. The greater risk you take with the French DDs, you're going to have a higher chance of saving that star. But you're also going to have a higher chance of losing a game because you came out from behind an island, you know? So for me, I think the best DDs, T-61, Gallant, Icarus, those are the ones with great concealment, Hatsuharu, and they work very well. Shinonome is also an intriguing pick because it has 6 127mm guns, and it is premium, so you can stick a really high skilled commander in there, and oh man, isn't this great? Isn't it great to be this accurate? I love this ship. I am a believer. The reload is wonderful. I did try to make the Arizona work. It's a smaller gun caliber, but it's 33 seconds of reload, which is a challenge. Whereas the West Virginia, 24 seconds. And obviously that's improved with the Drill Rush, but you really notice that. You really notice the time difference on some of these guns, and I can't recommend the super long reload to have that consistent effect on the game, but West Virginia certainly had the effect on this game. And our little dynamic DD battleship div ended up going all the way. It was incredibly satisfying to play with this comp and to be that successful. And we just weren't as consistently successful running cruisers and aircraft carriers and other weaker battleships and other weaker DDs. But this one ended up working out real well. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, you can click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You can also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos, first impression, how-to, news, review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.